Now, whilst we implemented navigation guards, I already brought up one problem. Whenever we manually enter a URL, we lose all our authentication data. That of course also means that if we leave this page and we come back later, even if we logged in 5 minutes ago, we will have to log in again. Because every time this page is reloaded, we start a new Vue application with a new Vuex store, and therefore all the data we had in the Vuex store before is lost. That's just how the browser and JavaScript works. But that does not mean that we can't store data which survives browser reloads. And therefore that's the next thing I want to do. I want to ensure that users can stay logged in. For that, we first of all need to go to our auth action and restructure the code here a little bit. We got the login and the sign up actions and the logout actions. I will add a new action, auth, which gets a context. And now I will actually refactor the other two actions so that we don't have as much code duplication. Because I will now add even more code that would be duplicated otherwise. So I will grab this code from login and copy it and add it here in the new auth action. Get rid of console log, we don't need that anymore. And here I now just expect that on the payload, which I get here, I also get the mode, login or sign up. So maybe a mode key on the payload. And then we got the URL, which is a variable, which by default, let's say, is that login URL here. But if mode is equal to sign up, then I want to replace URL with the sign up URL, which we can grab here from the sign up action. Copy it and add it here. And the idea here is that we now simply can use URL here in the actual fetch function, and we set URL appropriately before. And the rest of the code then is the same anyways. So here we don't really need to differentiate. Now I also want to use async here so that this still returns a promise and we can use the await keyword. So auth should be async. And now we can go to the login action and get rid of all that code and instead use context dispatch to dispatch the auth action here from inside the login action and pass on an object where I first of all copy my existing payload by using the spread operator, hence spreading, copying all the key value pairs of payload into this new object, which is passed as a payload to the auth action. And then I add mode and set this to login here, because we need that mode key in the auth action. And then we can copy that and do the same for sign up. And here set mode to sign up. Now, important, we want to return the result of dispatching so that this promise, which is returned by auth, is in the end also returned by login and sign up, so that our components can still keep track of whether we are still waiting for a response, whether we got an error, and so on. With that changed, if I go to login, let's quickly test this. This is still looking good. So looks like we still are able to send these requests. Yeah, that's looking good. Signing up with a user that already exists fails. So now I refactored this, and I did this for a very good reason. Because now we have to store that data, the token, the local ID, and now, or at least soon, also the expiration, not just in Vuex. We do need it there, but not just, but also in some storage that survives page reloads. And a great example here would be local storage, which is an API built into the browser. So it's some browser storage, which we can access from inside JavaScript. For that here, before I commit set user, I will access local storage, just like this. It's available in the browser. And then call set item to store new data in local storage. And here in the end, I want to store my token, which I get from response data.id token. And I also want to store the user ID, which I get from response data local ID. So now we don't just commit it to UX, but we also store it in the browser storage. And I'm doing this so that we then also can add an action where we check for this data when the app starts, and when that data is available, we automatically log the user in. Because at the moment, if I save that, if we reload this app, if I log in, it still works as before. And when I reload, that state is lost. But now if you go to the DevTools of your browser and there to application, in Chrome at least, you can visit the local storage, you can view that, and in here you will see a user ID and a token field. And that's that data which I just stored. And now we can use that to log the user in. By the way, we can view that data, but it's also our data. So that's no problem. It belongs to us as a user. So now we can add a new action, auto login or try login, whatever you want to name it, where we do just that. We check whether that data exists, and if it does, we set a user. If it doesn't, we don't. So here we also get context, and then we can access local storage and get an item, the token, store that in a token constant, also get the user ID, and then check if we got a token and a user ID, let's say. Then I want to context commit set user and pass that data on. So here, pass that payload to set user, where I set the token to the token we extracted from local storage, and set the user ID to the user ID we extracted from local storage, and set token expiration to null at the moment because we're not using it yet. That will change soon. And if we don't have a token or we don't have a user ID, this will not be committed and we will not set the user. We will not log the user in automatically, so to say. With that, however, we now need to dispatch this action whenever our app starts to check whether we can log the user in automatically. And the best place to do that is the app view file, because that is our root component. This gets created first when the entire app starts up. So here we can add the created lifecycle hook, which is fired when this component is created. And there we can then reach out to our store and dispatch the try login action. And with that, if we save this, you see if I now reload, I actually end up in logged in mode. And I can even reload on requests and we stay on that page. So now logging the user in automatically works. The only thing we now got to take care of is that we clear the data if we log out, because at the moment if I then reload, I'm logged in again because I don't clear the data in local storage. And we also should log the user out automatically when the token expires, because it turns out that the token has a limited lifetime for security reasons.